Hello there. Welcome to COVID-19 by Heerak show for May 15, 2020. Yeah, we're going to tropical island today. So stay tuned. It's not Ibiza, but it's going to be another ready for takeoff to tropical island. Yeah, so basically today we're celebrating because it's graduation time at Georgetown University. As you know, I'm class of 2020 at Georgetown University um, in clinical nurse leader program. That's a master's program at the School of Nursing and Health Studies. Going to Ibiza. Yeah, it's it's a great time, graduation time. Um, so I want to say congratulations to my fellow cohort members, CNL class of 2020. We did it. We're graduating. How exciting! So yeah, congratulations to every one of my cohort members. I love you guys. I hope you guys are getting in the mood as we transition into our roles as clinical nurse leaders this summer. It's an exciting time for all of us, an exciting time for everyone who's graduating at Georgetown. So congratulations to everyone at Georgetown who's graduating. We have the commencement ceremony tomorrow at 1 p.m. Saturday, the May 16th. And it's Facebook Live, so anybody can watch it. So I encourage you to watch it if you like. Um, and we had the Tropaya for School of Nursing and Health Studies today at 1 p.m., May 15th. And that's basically an award ceremony for Georgetown students who are bachelor's students. Yes, I was happy to see a lot of people just kind of, you know, watching this on Facebook Live. Um, well, we couldn't see anybody, but we just saw the professors basically and the student who was a speaker. And she was really, really good. Um, I thank her for your wonderful speech. If you're watching, everybody's watching this show, so I'm sure you're watching. So, uh, congratulations to you. You're graduating, and you gave us a wonderful speech. Yay! Thank you. So last year, year 2019, I went to the Tropaya ceremony that was at the McDougall School of Business at the auditorium there. And all the undergraduate students who are graduating from School of Nursing and Health Studies with their parents and guests were there. Obviously, yes, last year it was live and people were physically there. So you see the speaker there. So that's the photo that I took uh, when I um, when I was there. Uh, so I sat in front of Corey Belly Tifori. She's graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree last year. So I sat in front of her and her mother, father, and sister. So I actually got to meet them and talk to them. It was great. And she's working now at, um, you know, um, at Children's National Hospital. Yeah. So she was telling me at the Tropaya ceremony, and I was talking to her mother and father. They're from New Jersey, and they're like really nice family. And so yeah. So uh, you know, uh, uh, hope you're doing well, Corey, at Children's National Hospital. So hello, I'm sure you're watching this show too. And so yeah, so the guy who gave the speech, I didn't know him, but he gave a good speech last year. So he's there, like you can see his name on the screen over there, and all the nursing professors and other professors from School of Nursing and Health Studies, because we have global health, and we have health policy. We have like five five undergraduate programs, bachelor's program in the School of Nursing and Health Studies. So one of those is Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. And I had a lot of undergraduate students who graduated last year, so it's kind of nice to go there and say hello and meet their parents. So last year was my first year as a student at Georgetown. The Master of Science program at School of Nursing and Health Studies with focus on clinical nurse leaders is 2 years long. So last year was my first year, and I made a lot of friends. This year I made a lot of friends as well, and uh, I was happy to see one of my friends win like a lot of stuff. She was inducted into like the Honor Society, and she won all these awards. So I'd like to congratulate you on winning all those awards. Uh, Rebecca Kazor. So she and another undergraduate student, Morgan, and I, we three of us had like Korean food together, and we sang in the what is that, Martin Luther King uh, Day Freedom Choir, which is like an annual Georgetown tradition, singing at the Kennedy Center. That's where I met Morgan and Rebecca. Uh, so that was last year, 2019. And it was really nice. We sang, and this year, 2020, there was Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan came and sang. It was like really neat. And so yeah, so all of us sang last year, all of us sang this year. And so, yeah, it was, I was really glad to see Rebecca win all those awards. Yeah, so it's pretty impressive, actually. So, yeah, so I'm impressed. Congratulations to you. Yeah, you did it. You graduated from Georgetown University. Now you're going to start working as a nurse. We joked around about working in the same hospital last year, but we'll see. Um, I um, I am the clinical nurse leader program, which is a master's program, and we have a practicum in the summer. So we actually finish completely in August. We take our national certification exam for clinical nurse leader certificate exam, and so we take that in August, and then we become certified clinical nurse leaders, and that's for all 50 states and all the U.S. territories. I think it's a national certification. Yeah, so ours is a master's program. We have the certification program for clinical nurse leaders, so ours goes until like August. But bachelor's of science in nursing, they do 4 years, and they graduate in May. So Rebecca's done. Everyone else who's graduating this year is done. I know quite a number of the seniors because we did several projects together. The clinical nurse leaders and bachelor's of science in nursing people. So yeah, so congratulations to all the PSNs who are graduating. Yeah, congratulations to you. I hope you go and save a lot of people's lives from COVID-19. But to be honest with you, I know COVID-19 is killing a lot of people, including nurses. So I'm thinking about 10 to 20% of every nursing class will have somebody die. That's my prediction. I mean, because this COVID-19 is going to go for a few more years. That's what all the experts are saying. And I think World Health Organization yesterday or today said they're predicting that it may never end. It will just continue on, kind of like hepatitis C. And there are a lot of other experts who say that it will be indefinite, it will continue forever, and people will keep dying until a vaccine is discovered. And people are saying that there are some health experts who are saying vaccine may never be discovered, in which case, we could have hundreds of millions of people dying in the next 10 years or whatever. Um, or some people are saying, well, vaccine may be discovered in like 5 years. Generally, it takes about 2 years to discover vaccine. So, if you do anything like faster than that, it's like a it's a record. So most of the health experts are not anticipating vaccine being developed anytime before like 18 months or around that time, which is the fastest any vaccine got developed. So yeah, I mean, I personally, I'm going to be honest with you. If a vaccine gets developed by December, like President Trump says, I'm not taking that vaccine, because I mean, geez, I mean, we're not talking about like a toy car, we're talking about something you're putting into your body, and there could be side effects that kill you. Like, for like, you've seen movies of like experimental medications on soldiers and how they become monsters. There are a lot of movies like that. It's based on fact. There's a reason why people don't experiment on humans, because those things can't happen. Yeah, I don't trust any vaccine that's going to come out before December or by December. So what I would do, that's just me. You want to take the vaccine, go ahead. You're free to take the vaccine, but uh, there's always a possibility the vaccine itself can kill you. Like if there's a side effect, like it'll kill you. And so that's why they take like 18 months to prepare the vaccine in case, so they could observe people who get the test trial vaccine over a long time to see if people die from side effects. So if a vaccine comes out by December, I'm just going to watch everyone else take it. I'm not planning to take it in December because you have to observe it for like at least several weeks or a couple months to see what it does. And let's say 1,000 people took vaccines and 500 people dropped dead. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen. Hopefully, no one does. But I don't want to be in that first batch of people to be experimented on. In a way, you're like guinea pigs, right? So, so I'll probably wait until like February or March, at the latest, like 1 month. So as soon as the vaccine comes out, watch other people take it. And then if like 20-30% of the people start dropping dead, then I know that I should take it, So that's my plan. But, and I'm sharing with you just because obviously I created this show to help you survive COVID, right? So the purpose of this show is to help you survive COVID, which means I want you to live. So the strategies that I'm going to use to try to live and survive COVID-19, I'm going to share with you because I want you to live as well. So I treat you like my family. So make sure you come and watch this show every day so you don't miss out on it. And so, I would encourage you, not to, not watch this show. Meaning, you should watch other shows as well, but you should not miss this show because I'm giving you honesty and I'm giving you survival strategies that I myself am using. So you have the best chance of surviving if you watch this show. Obviously, you should watch this show and do what you want because it's your life. You have the right to take risks with your life. That's your right as a human being. Every human being has the right to take their own risks. But you should know what those risks are. And that's where I come in. I'm going to tell you like all the risks as I know it from research or through my expertise in many areas. I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. So I'm going to give you all the facts and then you decide what you want to do. But you do need to have facts so you know what risk you're taking, right? And that's why you need to watch this show every day, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent. It doesn't matter because you have the right to know what's out there. I'm not going to hide anything from you, and that's why I'm sharing this about vaccine. And so I know that the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing students who are graduating this summer, and the Master's of Science students in Clinical Nurse Leader program who are graduating. I'm predicting that about 20% at least will die from COVID in the next 2 years. I don't think that's an overestimation because a lot of nurses are dying and they will die because different strains are developing and there's no cure, no vaccine. So I think that's something that we can estimate. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that 20%. So my cohort has 25 people graduating in the summer, and Rebecca's cohort has 25 people graduating as well. So there's like 50 of us. So I'm expecting, out of that, like, 10% would be 5 because it's 50, right? 20% would be 10. So I'm expecting like 10 of us to die. So basically, 5 from each cohort, like the BSN. I'm expecting like 5 people to die from BSN, and maybe more than 5 from MSN. Master of Science in Clinical Nurse Leader program, because we're older, and I know for a fact that a lot of people in our program has asthma, and like they share that freely. So I know that, and they have allergies and stuff like that, and underlying conditions that were sharing with us in the class. So I know they would be more vulnerable to that. I don't. Maybe the BSNs have it too. I don't know. I don't know about because I went through our program, Master of Science, a Clinical Nurse Leader program together with my cohort. So I know them. I don't. I know like different people, but I don't know the cohort. 25 people in the BSN. Everybody very well. So yeah. So I mean, I think that's something that we can honestly expect. We shouldn't be surprised if like 5 or more people from our cohort die from COVID-19. I don't think we should be surprised. I mean, and I think we gotta psychologically prepare for that, because if we're not psychologically prepared when our, friends and cohort members die, it's going to be destabilizing mentally for us. And as nurses working with COVID patients, we can't have nervous breakdown or like traumatic breakdowns. So I think it's better to go step by step, with the expectation that 5 people will die. And if 5 people don't die, great. If no one dies, great. But I think we should expect like 5 or more people to die. That way, if we have like 3, 4 people dying, we're not going to be shocked about it because we're psychologically and mentally prepared. So sorry guys, but I think I'm helping you just by kind of sharing this. And some of you might have thought about this as well, but I think it's important that we do think about it because it's a likelihood that some of us will die in the hospital setting treating COVID patients, especially those of us with conditions, underlying conditions, whether it's asthma or diabetes or whatever. So it's something that we have to be realistic about. But having said that, let's go to the death figures. And I was right, for 4 days in a row, we have a death rate that's like between 1,500 and 2,000. So that is the new normal, an average of around, 1,500 to 2,000 people dying every day. So let's say, just say 2,000 because it's easy to remember. In 10 days, we're going to have 20,000 people die. So easily we're going to break 100,000 in May. Yeah, so as you know, I'm predicting that over 1 million US citizens will die by August 2020. And I think I'm going to be right. And I think more and more experts are kind of raising their numbers, and a lot of people raised their numbers today, after seeing the death figures. I guess they were expecting it to go down, but it's not going down. So, and with country opening up, many more people are going to get COVID and die. And that's just something you got to expect. Of course, none of us want that, but it's going to happen. And President Trump today said, we're going to open up the country with or without vaccine. And, I mean, he knows the risk. It's not, I mean, President Trump is very smart. He knows that more people will die if you open up the country, but, he's afraid that America is going to collapse. So he's willing to open up the country and take the risk. And there are a lot of Americans who are willing to open up the country and take the risk. And as I said, you have the freedom to take risk with your own life. And for some people, making money or, you need money to survive, right? Not becoming homeless is an important thing. So they're willing to risk life to not become homeless, or not to lose their home to foreclosure or to be evicted from their apartment, because that's going to happen, right? If you don't pay rent or if you don't pay mortgage, you're going to lose your house or you're going to be evicted. So some people are willing to risk, working and dying from COVID because they need to work to have money to pay these things. So as you know, for those of you who've been following me on Twitter, I propose that we print more money, at least until the vaccine is developed. Certainly in the short run, next few months, because you could always print more money, it's not a problem. And for me, it's more important to save people's lives. Because, let's say we get a vaccine 2 years from now, and that is 100% effective. I mean, chances are low, but let's say that happens. It can happen. Then theoretically, hardly anybody's going to die because the vaccine is effective, right? So I think that's a more realistic way to look at it. Like vaccines going to be developed in 2 years, and it may not happen. There's a higher chance that it will not happen, but it could happen. So I think what we need to do is we do need to protect human life because on several levels, if you have like 30 million Americans dying by year 2022, that could be highly demoralizing for American citizens, and that demoralization itself can destroy the economy, because people are emotional beings. Yeah, so I would worry about that. Because it's not just numbers, it's people's lives, real people's lives. Excuse me for a second. I've heard stories of people whose lives were turned upside down just because one daughter died. Yeah, and you've probably seen movies like that too, or known people like that. And that's why you should never just have one child, because there's so many things can that go wrong, like COVID. I mean, if you have one child, there's such a high chance that you're going to lose her or him, right? I mean, if you have 5 children, it's kind of, I mean, all 5 could die from COVID, but chances are lower, right? So you have at least some children remaining to comfort you. So that's why I say you should have at least like 4 kids, because, I mean, you never know what happens, and family is basically all you got at the end of the day, right? I mean, people stab you in the back in your workplace, right? All kinds of things happen with your friends, they stab you in the back, whatever. I mean, that's what I hear from people, So, and you can't really trust your friends the way you can trust your family, right? Whether it's your wife, your brother, sister, parents, or your children. So I would recommend that everybody get at least 4 children, because at the end of the day, your family is all you have, really have. Some of you have all these friends, but they're kind of superficial. And you're kind of like careful not to step on toes. You know how it is. And so at the end of the day, family is all you have. So I'd recommend everybody to get at least 4 children. But I'm at a Catholic university, Georgetown University. So there are a lot of families, who have a big family. It's such a blessing. I wish more Protestants were like Catholics and getting more children. That's one of the reasons I personally would like to marry a Catholic. I mean, I would want us to go to a Presbyterian church because I'm Presbyterian, but I would want to marry a Catholic, and I'll probably send her to either Protestant or Catholic, elementary, middle school, high school, because you want children to have the best possible education. Catholic education is really good. Yeah, so maybe, you know, if I marry a Catholic girl, I would compromise and say, well, let's go to Presbyterian church, but we'll send your kid to like Catholic schools from pre-K to 12th grade. Because it's Christian school is Christian, where Christian is Christian, right? Orthodox, Catholic, or Protestant. If you're truly born again, and if you're following the Bible, like Romans 1 and Bible ethics, then, you know, Christianity is Christianity. All of us are following the same Bible, worshiping the same God, where Christianity is one religion, right? We just have different denominations. And so, yeah. But anyway, so we had a total death of 85,813 yesterday. Today's total is 87,493. You should expect us to break 100,000 in May. And I'm predicting that we will break 200,000 in June or more. 200 or 300,000 we've broken in June. And then it will exponentially grow in July and August. So I'm predicting that 1 million US citizens will have died from COVID total by August, sometime in August. So let's see if I'm right. I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think I'm going to be right. I mean, every day kind of confirms my theory. And I totally understand President Trump. I mean, I respect him. I see why he wants to open up, because we're already like behind China, and there's a serious threat of us collapsing as a country, as an economy, because of COVID. I mean, people are going to continue to die. I'm not going to change my facts or theory based on the facts that 1 million people are going to die. But I see why President Trump wants to kind of try to fight this, because he's concerned about the economy. But obviously, if we open up, more people can die. I mean, more than 1 million can die easily. In the Spanish flu pandemic, 1917, scientists were saying one person infected 10,000 people. But Spanish flu wasn't as lethal as COVID-19. So not as many people died, but this COVID-19 is lethal, so it kills a lot of people. So that's why I don't think we should take a risk. I mean, this is where I disagree with President Trump. I think it's better to print money now, print money as long as we can, provide money for people, just have essential people work, like meat industry, food industry, and then allow people who want to open up to open up. But not force people, especially if we don't give them N95 masks, some kind of physical barrier to protect them against COVID infection. Obviously, if you develop like respirator or respirator for work that will protect you like 99% against COVID, then you can send people to work because you're protecting them from COVID in the workplace. But I disagree in forcing people to go to work, which is not essential work, like shopping center, grocery store, meat packing industry, anything related with food is essential. So you have to kind of make sure everybody works, and people die, you have to replace them with other people who didn't die. Because you don't want Americans to die of hunger. So that, I mean, people die of hunger during war or famine. We don't want that to happen. So we have to make sure meat packing industries, meat industries, bread industry, anything related with food must stay open. Even if thousands of people die, we have to replace them. We just hire people who want to work. Don't force them to work, but if they want to quit, fine. But, we have to keep those open. We don't have a choice because we don't want people to die of starvation. We already have like 40 million people under the poverty line who didn't have food before COVID started. I mean, do you want that to go to 80 million? Yeah, we don't want that. So we need to make sure people who are in the food industry work, even if people are dying. We have to. We have no option. Even if there is no PPE, we have to have some people working there, because people can die of starvation. So let's say meat packing industry in Virginia has 1,000 workers and 200 died in 1 month. You have to replace those 200 with people living, and the 200 may die next month. You have to keep going. Because what are you going to do, close the meatpacking industry and then have Virginia starve to death? These are essential works. Obviously, my recommendation is give them N95 masks, give them like gloves, give them all the protection that they need. Make sure they're not talking to each other, because the moment you talk to each other, vapors are coming out of your mouth. There's higher chance that you will infect other people. So when I went shopping today at Giant, and there were people talking, I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, even if you have a mask on, if you talk, your chance of getting COVID becomes really high. So you should not talk to anybody if you don't want COVID. So I have my mask on and the Giant, and there are people, I love talking to people, but I know that the moment I start talking, vapors from my mouth comes out, and they're gonna talk, vapors from their mouth are gonna come out, and I could get infected with COVID, even though I have my mask on, even though they have their mask on. It's not an N95 mask, right? I could get infected. Masks that you make at home like this is only 20-30% effective, right? You could give it to people, you could get it yourself with masks that's only 20-30% effective. So it's in your interest not to talk to anybody, because the moment they open their mouth, vapors come out. Every time you breathe, there's a vapor that comes out, carbon dioxide vapor comes out, and those can carry COVID virus. Viruses are very small. So every time you breathe on people, you could infect them with because carbon dioxide, it's vapor, so you can infect people just by breathing on them at a close range, because when you breathe, it's not like nothing's coming out. It's like gaseous molecules are coming out. And, viruses are very light. They could travel far. So, so whenever you go to shopping like Giant or Walmart, do not talk to people. Even if you're 5 feet away, I wouldn't risk it, because there are different studies, that say COVID can travel more than 5 feet. Some MIT studies that they could travel like 20 feet. I mean, I don't know if they're right or wrong, but that's like a research done by experts at MIT. They said you could travel 20 feet. I mean, they may be right, they may be wrong. I'm not going to take a risk. Are you going to take a risk? So, if you go to worship service on Sunday, do not talk to people. Just go and worship God and come back home. If you want to talk to people, come back home and call them up on the phone. Don't talk to people at church. You go to church, you sing hymns, make sure everybody's facing in one direction. So when you're singing against somebody's head. They're not going to, unless they like touch their head and touch their eyes with it, they're not going to get infected, right? So you go to church, don't talk to anybody. Wear your mask, you sing the songs, make sure everybody's like 5 feet away. I'm estimating 20 to 30 people will be infected. Obviously, you got to worship Jesus, even though you're going to get infected and die. If you die, you go to heaven. It's a better place anyway. But it's a virus. It's going to kill you. I mean, that's what viruses do. Because homosexuality is not illegal in America, it's going to continue to kill. And if you're a Christian who think homosexuality is okay or gay marriage laws are okay, you're going to get COVID and die. Go to church and worship God, because God's going to be very upset that you feel that way, because it goes against Romans chapter 1, goes against the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, it goes against Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Numbers, it goes against many books of the Bible. Bible is very clear that homosexuality should be illegal by national law. So if you disagree with that, just count on getting infected with COVID and dying, you and your children who go to church. Yeah, so it doesn't matter how much you love Jesus. I mean, you got to follow the word of God. And if you're going to say it's okay to keep homosexuality legal, then God's going to probably punish you and your children through COVID. So yeah, if you believe that homosexuality should not be legalized, that gay rights should exist in society, I recommend you don't go to church, because you're going to bring God's wrath upon you in his home. Because you're like going to his home and you're like defying his law. I mean, God's going to be like 10,000 times angry at you. If you at least stay home, God's like, hey, you don't respect my law, you don't come to my home, you're respecting me. But like if you're like, oh, people have the right to have gay marriage, and you're thinking this, and you go to God's home, God's going to give you COVID. God's going to give you COVID. Expect to get COVID and die if you go to church believing it's okay to legalize gay marriage. Yeah, so I'm telling you, I'm giving you fair warning, because I'm trying to save your life. So if you want to believe what you want to believe and go to hell after you die, that's your freedom. Um, you know, you are free to believe what you want. You're free to reject Jesus. That's your freedom. I'm telling you what the Bible position is and what God's going to do to you and your family. So you know. So don't tell me that I didn't tell you. Let's say you go to church next week, and you, your wife, your 3 children all get COVID, and then 1 week later, your 3 children die from the new strain of COVID, which I'm calling New York virus, which is like infecting and killing children in New York, like 1 per day in New York. Um, Yesterday, there were 3 cases that were diagnosed in Washington, D.C. So it's already here. So let's say you go to church on Sunday with your wife and children, and you don't believe that homosexuality should be legalized. I'm willing to bet you're going to get infected with your children either this Sunday or next Sunday, some Sunday. God's patient. God may be patient, give you, a few weeks to change your mind, but God will infect you and your children and kill you. Yeah, because that's what God does. God punishes believers through plagues and acts of God, and God kills believers who defy his law. That's the fundamental principle in the Bible. Look at book of Exodus. God brought out all the Israelites from Egypt and then killed all of them that he brought out of Egypt. Only Joshua and Caleb are the ones who were born in Egypt, who entered the promised land. Every single Israelite who exited Egypt died in the wilderness, 40-day wilderness. And it's like a 1-month trip. God made them wander around in the desert for 40 years. And, I guess to test them to see if they're going to keep God's law. And every time they did not keep God's law, God killed them. Just read the book of Exodus. God loves killing people in punishment. That's he does it all the time. I mean, just read the book of Exodus. That's why the Bible says, fear of the Lord is beginning of wisdom. Because God loves to kill Christians and believers, chosen people of Israel, when they go away from Torah, from the word of God. Yeah, Hashem kills. Yeah, and that's just who God is. He's just mean. So, as I've been sharing again and again on this show, God's love is always conditional. You break God's law, he's going to punish you. And sometimes that's going to be giving you some kind of plague and killing you with it. Cancer, heart attack, anything, even before COVID. But now we have COVID, it's convenient for God to use that to punish his people. That's why, I read in New York church, there are 44 Christians who died. They probably believe homosexuals, are loved by God, which is not true according to the Bible. Right? Sodom and Gomorrah, God doesn't go and kill every homosexual if he loved them. I mean, it's just, God doesn't love homosexuals. So like if you start telling God what he does, and that doesn't jive with the word of God, then you're going to be punished for it. And God likes to kill believers through punishment, or through disease or famine or whatever. He has his diverse way of executing Christians who defy God's law. So that's why I recommend you repent to God if you thought that homosexuality is okay, because that offends God. It's against God's law to even think that. So you got to repent, and then you got to start thinking that homosexuality is not okay. It's not just a sin; it has to be illegalized as a crime, according to the book of Deuteronomy and book of Romans. If you're not willing to do that, don't go to church and worship, because you will get COVID and die. Not only you, your wife, and your children. I gave you warning, right, based on the word of God, right? I'm an expert in New Testament and Old Testament who believes in the infallibility and inerrancy of the word of God, which means Bible is God's word. I'm telling you what's going to happen to you and your family if you go to church, if you don't believe that homosexuality should be legalized. Yeah, in your mind, because God can read your mind. So you have been warned. So go to church at your own risk. God will punish you at his own for believing against God's law. Because God says you got to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. So God's monitoring whether you're loving him with your mind, which involves the word of God. So I've warned you, Virginians, not to go to church on Sunday and worship at church if you think homosexuality is okay, or gay marriage is okay, or if legally it should be allowed to exist. Don't go to church because you're going to get COVID and die, you and your children. Don't blame me because I told you. I gave you the warning that in the Bible that you should know. I'm applying the Bible to today's context, right? So that you can survive COVID, you and your family. Obviously, I want you to follow the Bible, but not everybody's predestined by God to be saved. And if you're not predestined, you're going to choose not to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. God created hell to send people there. God doesn't want everybody to be saved. So that's why he created hell. I mean, if he wanted everybody in the world to be saved, he could just say everybody be saved and everybody saved. But because God doesn't want everybody to be saved, and that's clear in John 3, it says everybody's already condemned by God. Only those who choose to accept Jesus are saved. But you start from guilty. You're guilty until proven innocent in Christianity. That's just the system. Christianity is not a democracy. It's an absolute monarchy with God as king. So yeah, nobody has rights in Christianity. Because it's a monarchy, absolute monarchy. It's not a democracy. So you start from the vantage of guilty. Everybody's guilty. Original sin, everybody's guilty. And then if you accept Jesus Christ and repent, then you become innocent. So everybody starts from the vantage point of guilty. And that is completely different from democracy, where everybody is presumed innocent. So you start from the vantage point of innocent, and then you have to be proven to be guilty in the court of law. So that's Christianity is opposite of democracy. So like when Tim Keller says Christianity and democracy are compatible, he's wrong. Yeah, I mean, he's in my circle. He's a Presbyterian Church in America pastor. I disagree with him. He knows that. I don't think he's following the Bible on this point because New Testament did not support democracy. Jesus did not support democracy. St. Paul did not support democracy. No disciple supported democracy existed at the time of the early Christians. They opposed democracy, especially homosexuality, because democracy, Roman democracy, protected the rights of homosexuals. That's what democracies do. Generally, after a while, they degenerate into that moral complicity, moral degeneration. So that happened in Rome, that happened in Greece, these democracies. Old Testament opposed Greek democracy. New Testament opposed Roman democracy. Yeah. So, yeah, democracy and Christianity are incompatible. And homosexuality is one issue that clearly shows that, yeah. But anyway, I'm trying to help you survive COVID. If you want to go to hell, that's your freedom. If you want to reject the Bible, I'm here to tell you how you can physically survive COVID. And I'm going to talk to you about that from a healthcare perspective. I'm going to also talk to you about that from a spiritual perspective. I'm going to talk about that from a psychological perspective. I'm going to talk about that from an economic perspective, as well as historical perspective, and I'm going to talk about it from biblical perspective. So I'm giving you this biblical perspective of how the Bible shows God acting with people, Christians and non-Christians. If you want to live on earth, I mean, you live maximum, 110, 120 years, but, at least you could enjoy a good life in America, in this world before you die and go to hell. If you choose to reject God's word, you're going to go to hell. But, you have the freedom to choose what you want. I mean, it's not my business what you choose. I'm just telling you how you can survive physically, like in terms of life and death, COVID-19, right? So even if you're not a Christian, don't you want to survive COVID-19? I mean, even if you don't believe that God exists, I'm telling you God exists. I mean, isn't it in your interest to oppose gay marriage and homosexuality and call for illegalization of homosexuality? Because I'm saying God exists according to the Bible, and I'm saying the Bible is true. You don't believe it's true, but what if? What if God does exist, right? Let's say you're an atheist. What if God does exist, and what if God is killing people who think homosexuality is okay? What? Don't you want to increase your chances of survival of COVID? So even if you're not a Christian, I mean, if you want to survive COVID from a biblical angle, you have to oppose gay marriage, and you got to support illegalization of homosexuality to appease the God that I'm saying exists. You don't believe it exists, but maybe you should become an agnostic and, agnostic doubt the existence of God. Because what if he does exist? What if? Don't you want to cover all bases to survive this thing? I mean, I'm saying you can survive if you support gay rights. Yeah, so, not everybody who supports gay rights may be executed, but I'm saying, maybe God will. We don't know where COVID-19 is going to go. I'm predicting that around 50 million Americans or more will die in the next 3 to 4 years, maybe, sooner from COVID-19. So I'm putting my number at 50 million right now. I may raise it, but I'm probably not going to lower it unless we develop a vaccine or cure. As you know, Christians believe God's in control with that factor as well. So if America doesn't illegalize gay marriage, my guess is either no vaccine will be developed, or even if the vaccine will be developed, God's going to probably find another way to punish United States of America, maybe through famine, maybe through hurricanes, maybe through earthquakes, because God's going to enforce His law through His holy angel. And a fundamental law of God is you got to legalize homosexuality. Yeah. So, yeah, you could take it or leave it. Excuse me. But I feel that it's my obligation to let you know. And then you could choose to reject it or accept it. That's your freedom. But why should you not know, right? Why should you not know the traditional biblical position? God killed everybody in Sodom and Gomorrah, including Christians, believers, because according to the Bible, there weren't enough believers to oppose gay marriage and homosexuality in Sodom and Gomorrah, so God decided to kill everyone, 100% of the population, in 2 cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. That's how God is. So yeah, if you're a Christian who believes that homosexuality is okay, expect to die by COVID. I think if you survive, that's like an exception to the rule. Yeah, I'm expecting all the Christians in America who believe that homosexuality is okay to get COVID and die. Or at least, a large part of their family to die. So let's see if I'm right or wrong. But, that's what the Bible shows. And they said, well, when Babylonians invaded Israel and the whole country was completely destroyed by Babylonians, the first temple was destroyed. They said up to about 80% of the population were killed. Yeah, or they died of starvation as they ran away trying to flee. Or, they were enslaved by people who caught them in other countries. But 80% died, like slow death, like as slaves, or, through slow death, like through starvation, or, quick death by being stabbed to death by the invading Babylonian army. So yeah, God does kill like a lot of people. Just read the Bible, Bible continues the story about God killing His people when they break God's law. That's a central theme in the Bible. Yeah. But anyway, the cases are going on, going up at about the same rate, 20 to 30,000 people. So yesterday we had total case of 1,416,528. Today we have 1,442,924. Now, so I put an extra thing today. So out of people who get COVID, how many people are dying? 6%. So if 100 people will get COVID, 6 will die. So in Virginia, like about 1,000 people got it. At this rate, 60 people will definitely die. So out of the 1,000, at 6%, 60 people will die. So there have been like 1,000 cases every day of last week, so 7,000. So you say, 6 times 7, 420 people would definitely die. Yeah, so that's why these percentages are helpful for us to understand. Now let's go to Europe. And the most number of cases are in Russia, which is now considered Europe. I mean, it's Eastern Europe, right? So they have 262,843 cases. Their total death is 2,418 deaths. So yeah, as I said, you know my theory, right? Heerak Kim's theory is that COVID-19 is a next generation advanced precision biological weapons of mass destruction that Chinese government, Chinese Red Army developed over the course of 30 years or so with the precise goal of destroying United States of America in terms of economic infrastructure, viability as a nation, and also population, because people kill people in wars. And that they decided to unleash this in year 2019 because they were beginning to collapse economically because President Trump was so effective in beating China. So they got desperate and they unleashed a biological weapon that was in their stockpile. So they developed this, in my opinion, a few years ago, but they're kind of keeping in their military secret weapons program on vault for future usage. But they got desperate because President Trump is really good in economics. So US became so quickly dominant in the last 2-3 years under President Trump's rule. Chinese got desperate and just unleashed this weapon on us. That's my theory. And like this fact, Russia only having 2,418 deaths proves my theory, I would say. Now you got to remember, and I'm going to give you this theory. So those of you who are listening from FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, Pentagon, Department of Defense, listen carefully because I am teaching you what you need to know to survive this, to protect the United States citizens. As you know, I applied to be a professor of CIA, yeah, like a few years ago. But so I'm an expert who can train CIA agents. That's what I'm saying. Because I'm good enough to apply for the job. And I think I'm good enough to get it, but anyway. But, they generally choose people, from in-house, people with military experience, CIA experience and stuff like that. So I have no military experience, no CIA experience, no FBI experience, no NSA experience. So, that's probably why I didn't get the job. I don't know, maybe they're still reviewing my files. I don't know. Because I've done a lot in my life. I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. So there's a lot to examine. But anyway, yeah. So let me give you a scenario for you FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, Department of Defense, Pentagon people, and military intelligence people out there, because obviously your level of thinking is much lower than my level of thinking. I've trained my mind. I've been trained by the best to think theoretically and practically and logically. So listen carefully because I'm giving you a lesson that you need to learn. Now, when Chinese military, the Red Army, is anticipating this biological weapon that they're going to unleash on the United States and the allies of the United States, they're going to calculate about 5 things. Number 1, how will each nation respond to the virus being unleashed? So they're going to factor that in when they're engaging in strategic planning for preemptive strike of United States and NATO nations with weapons of mass destruction. I mean, this may be more lethal than nuclear bombs. Yeah. So you have so they're going to consider that, right? How will the nations respond to the initial release of the advanced weapons about biological advanced weapons of mass destruction that's biological in nature, like a virus? How will the nations respond? So they've been collecting data on that, Chinese military intelligence, Red Army, for decades. So that's one information they're going to collect. Number 2, how will United States and her allies assess the situation? Will they say it's a weapon? Will they say, so the first one is about their response in terms of policy, right? What would they do? Like, will they quarantine the nation? Will they ground all flights? So like a policy response uh, at the national, local, and global levels, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Second thing is a diplomatic response, or something that is in that realm. Like, would they say that it's a weapon? Would they say it's a uh, just a health scare? What would they say? Like, in terms of the way they see China, would they say it's a mistake that was made in a Chinese lab, or number one? Number two, is it a weapon that Chinese intentionally created? And sub point under that, if it is a weapon that is intentionally created, was it accidentally released or was it intentionally released? Uh, would they think that, or would they not think that at all? Or would they think that it's just a virus that was created, it just spread normally? Or would they think that it's a virus that was created and then Chinese had a hand in spreading it in a certain way? So they didn't create it as a bioweapon, but they could strategically spread it around the world since they're the first nation to have it. So they could co-opt it as a biological weapon, which is different from like intentionally using it as a biological weapon. So my theory is that it's a precision biological weapon that was created in the lab, studying the genetic makeup of the majority of the population in the United States and Europe, and then excluding the genetic makeup of Asians because they don't want Asians to die, Africans, and Slavics, like the Russian, because they're Slavs, right? So they would have done DNA sequencing and genetics analysis to see what is the genetic difference in the United States that has similarities in Europe. So if they unleash this precision virus, it will end up killing mostly United States and Europeans, because those are the genetic sequences saying that this biological advanced weapon that is genetically modified will target. But it will not target the genetic sequencing of Asians, Africans, Middle Eastern Arabs, or Slavs. And obviously, scientifically, this is possible. Theoretically possible. But United States, I am saying, is about 30 years behind China, because China focused on biological weapons, I'm arguing, because they realized they can't beat America in nuclear or conventional weapons, because US has longer history and we have more cash. We used to have more money to develop these. So they figured biological weapons is the way that they could destroy us. So they used all their efforts to develop advanced biological weapons. So that's my theory, and I think I'm right. And as far as I know, I'm the only one in the world who's proposing this theory. And that's why you need me in US Congress. I'm running as a independent candidate for US Congress in Virginia's 8th District. It's Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. And I am, I feel like I need to go to Congress to raise certain discussions and issues that people need to consider. Because I don't think anybody's considering that this is a biological weapon. And not considering that will destroy our nation. Because you gotta ask the right questions to survive whatever. If it's a biological weapon, then the way we deal with it is different because it's not a natural virus, right? You have to think like your enemy. So let's say Chinese biological weapon is 30 years advanced than us. How would they develop a biological weapon? Do you think they will develop a biological weapon which will be killed by a vaccine. If they're not going to develop a biological weapon that's going to be vulnerable to vaccines, how would they go about doing that? Now, let's say you're the Chinese Red Army, advanced, and you're using all your intelligent resources on this. Which experts are you going to use? You're going to use the vaccine experts to understand how vaccines are developed for everything. And then you're going to genetically modify COVID-19 so that whatever normative process in vaccine development, you're going to put a stopper at every stage, major stage of vaccine development, so that no vaccine development will succeed. I mean, if you have the technology to develop an advanced biological weapon that genetically modifies DNA sequencing, we have that technology for plants, right? Genetically modified plants. But if they have succeeded to bring it to the next level, to target human beings, to be able to distinguish genetic makeup of diverse races, don't you think that they may also have technology to preemptively destroy any opportunity to develop a vaccine using science of vaccine and the normative process to develop vaccine? So that would be built into the biological weapon. And if that's the case, we're wasting time trying to develop vaccines. What we need to do is we gotta find a way to genetically kill the virus, which is not a vaccine, right? So we have to engage in genetic modification of, so we have to find something that's going to kill the virus. So it's not a vaccine we have to work on. We gotta engage in viral warfare. We gotta find the virus or some kind of genetic material that's going to kill the virus, which has been genetically modified. So we should be devoting more time to genetic research. But the problem that we have in that realm is we're 30 years behind China. So we need to steal some of their research. We'll find a way to steal their research. That's the only way we're going to survive. We need to steal the 30-year advanced research from the Chinese somehow. And that's probably the only way we can really find a way out of this from a viral perspective. I mean, theoretically, we can engage in massive push in genetics research, and then we can come up with it ourselves. But the thing is, if we're 30 years behind, that's harder to do. Rather than just steal the secrets from the Chinese Red Army, that's probably easier to do. So obviously you need different skill sets for both, right? To steal the secrets from the Chinese, you have to use probably ethnic Chinese people who are fluent, or you have to turn Chinese agents to get the information that we need. Now there's a high problem because it's 100% homogeneous population. It's a communist dictatorship, so it's hard to infiltrate, nearly impossible. So, but that's where the CIA and NSA, they have to be willing to sacrifice, I would say 100 to 500 agents to get the secrets from the Chinese. Sacrifice meaning they would die in the process of trying to get the information. So if I were a teacher, like part of the CIA mechanism, I would say we're going to sacrifice 1,000 CIA agents to steal this secret on their biological research. And we're going to find different ways to get this. And counting on 1,000 agents being killed by the Chinese Red Army in the process of trying to steal this information. That's what I'll be focusing on if I were the Department of Defense, stealing research on biological weapons program. And I would be happy to sacrifice 1,000 CIA agents who've been trained by the best, right? Because we're talking about a matter of life and death of a nation here. United States is I'm predicting United States will become a third world nation in 3 years from COVID-19, because COVID is not killing people in Russia. COVID is not killing people in China. So my guess is Russians and Chinese collaborated on this genetics weapon. That's my theory. So that's why you don't see many people dying in Russia, and you don't see many people dying in China, right? But it's spreading like wildfire in America. And there aren't too many people dying in other Russian, former Soviet Union republics, like Kazakhstan, right? Which is like a Muslim nation, because their genetic makeup is not targeted. The genetic makeup that's targeted is the United States and Europe. And second thing that I think, United States military intelligence and FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, and Pentagon and Department of Defense need to do is reverse engineering, a type of reverse engineering, meaning the reason the Chinese unleashed this on Wuhan, I'm arguing, is for three purposes. Number one, they want to provide a blueprint for all the nations after China to follow. So when COVID-19 hit Wuhan, they quarantined the city, shut everything down, completely immobilized the population. And then they broadcasted COVID-19 spreading in Wuhan to put fear into everybody so that people will act out of fear and that they would follow the pattern that the Chinese have shown us. So it's like putting ideas into your mind. And so it's kind of like high-level intelligence warfare. And the British MI6 is particularly good at it. And KGB is even superior. And that is you engage in a type of a mind game where you are implanting certain thought processes in your enemy. So they'll follow that pattern without realizing they're following that pattern. And you're intentionally directing this to their destruction, right? Because you're thinking 2 to 3 or even 10 steps ahead of them. So what I'm saying is this: Chinese unleashed this on themselves in Wuhan, first of all, to give a blueprint for the rest of the nations to follow, or all of the nations to follow. So, and then they tried it out as a trial run in Italy, because they didn't want to attack America right away, because America is the main target. So they released it in Italy strategically. It started spreading. They did exactly what Wuhan did: quarantine and shut it down. And then now you have two examples. So you're setting a pattern, and President Trump shut down America, ending flights to China and flights to Europe. So he's kind of following the same pattern, which in the case of a natural virus is a smart thing to do. But I'm arguing that COVID-19 is a intentionally created, genetically modified biological weapon. So they're anticipating what the enemy will do. And then they could release different loads, meaning it may not be just one virus, different strains of viruses that are released at phases. So let's say once the United States shut down the nation and blockaded everybody from everyone, they could release a more lethal virus. And so, and I'm arguing that it's done in New York City. And so because the nation is quarantined off, basically everybody in that nation will be proliferating with that brand. So if we want to take this one level further, it's possible that China might have created COVID-19 with similar structure, but different specificity for each nation. So genetic composition for England, genetic composition for United States, they might have even specified it, made it more specific based on which nation they're targeting. because they're presuming every nation will shut themselves off from others outside. So this experiment would work. So you got to think like the enemy. If it is true, and this is my theory, obviously, its theories need to be proven. If it is true that China designed COVID-19 as a preemptive biological weapon of this mass destruction to target and completely destroy the United States infrastructure, political infrastructure, economic infrastructure, right? Just destroy it completely to create so that China can ascend to dominance. You would have to presume that they probably thought out, gamed out every scenario in the past 20, 30 years and fine-tuned it, depending on geopolitical, economic, sociological, cultural developments. And so now, let's suppose that this is their primary weapons program. All their energies put into this. This is the way they're going to destroy the United States and the allies of the United States. They could work on specificity of each virus that they're going to use in each nation in NATO. Once the nation locks itself out from other nations, you can do more, right? So that's also a possibility. So your way of thinking becomes completely different. Your way of problem solving becomes completely different if you go with the theory that this is an advanced weapon of mass destruction that was intentionally designed, genetically modified, right? Which will include defensive measures to ensure that no vaccine is successfully developed. So you got to think at all these, you got to think all the steps through. And this is why I applied to be a CIA professor, because had I become a professor in CIA 2 years ago, 3 years ago when I applied, we would not have this COVID situation. We wouldn't. Because I would have anticipated biological advanced weapons destruction, and I would have let everybody know. The right people. The Pentagon, the right people in the CIA, NSA, Homeland Security, and I would have pushed to make sure that we allocate enough funding for this area of research. And then I'll pressure the Pentagon to game out all the scenarios. Do you see what I'm saying? So one professor who's superior in CIA can change the destiny of a nation. And obviously historians believe that. History changes because of one person. Nazi Germany would not have come into existence without Hitler. Right? One person changes the whole history. Alexander the Great is the reason why Greek Empire rose to dominance. Without Alexander the Great, it would not have happened. You see, so history, and obviously there are different historical schools of thought, but the school of thought that has been most dominant for centuries is the school of thought that says one critical person can redirect history, and that's me. Had CIA hired me as a professor 2-3 years ago, we would not have had this COVID situation because I would have anticipated this. But none of the CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, Pentagon people were able to anticipate this. That's why we have received the preemptive biological weapons of mass destruction strike, and we're completely defenseless. Because no one gamed this theory out in the Pentagon. Pentagon's like a few miles from here in Arlington. One person changes everything. One person, that would have been me. But unfortunately, I wasn't in the Pentagon, I wasn't in the CIA. And that's why America is about to collapse as a nation. I would say, if I had to put a percentage figure, I would say the chances that America will completely collapse as a nation is about 70 to 80% right now at this point. Meaning, when I say completely collapse, meaning United States will no longer be relevant in global geopolitics. What does that mean? What that means is China will become the new economic center. So China, Shanghai, probably, because they don't like Hong Kong. So Hong Kong will be minimized. Shanghai or Beijing will become the new, probably Beijing will be the military, the political center. Shanghai will become the new economic center. So that will be like New York. And then Moscow or Petersburg will become like London. So the whole geopolitics will shift, meaning right now the civilization is Western civilization that's dominating, and it's been that way for past probably several centuries. So there was a period of time that Asian civilizations were rising, and at least comparatively maybe superior. That started to shift in Middle Ages and early modern history, so about 500-600 years ago. Still, some would say, like the printing press, they said a lot of the information came from China, like pasta, a lot of the information came from China, Marco Polo. But Western civilization took off and it became dominant. And Asian civilization diminished in influence, power, and eventually the West dominated against the East Asia. So we have these, we got to look at history as a meta structure, rise and fall of civilizations. I think that's the best way to look at it. Look at this COVID-19 from that framework. China is realizing there's no way they could gain dominance against America without a war. They want to be dominant because now they've tasted all the wealth, all the power, all the goodness in the world, because President Clinton opened up China and all of our billionaires lost their money. Not all, many of them. And then billionaires rose to power in China. Now that they have tasted the goodness, they got greedy. They want it. So they've devoted all their energy to destroying America so that they could be the dominant country, dominant civilization. So you have to look at the drives of nations, drives of political leaders, drives of individuals. Do you think it's an accident that President Putin had been consistently president in Russia for past decades? And China is having similar trends? See, you may just think of this and not really think about it. But you got to think about it from a vantage point. Why are these nations, number one, doing this? Number two, why are the political elites allowing this to happen? Right? Because these things cannot happen if the political elites do not agree to it. So I'm saying that the design to destroy America through COVID-19 was planned decades before by China and Russia. And so obviously the Pentagon should have been able to game this out and prepare for it. Obviously it wasn't prepared. And that's where I'm saying Pentagon needed someone like me or the CIA. You don't have anyone. Everybody's incompetent right now, right? How do we know? Chinese succeeded in their preemptive biological weapons of mass destruction strike of the United States, and we're going to be destroyed as a nation. That's why. That's why I'm saying every CIA operative, intelligence agent, intelligence professor, Pentagon official, U.S. military generals don't really, they just fight the wars. So U.S. military intelligence, they're all stupid. Because what's the purpose of having intelligence? What is the purpose of having NSA, CIA, Homeland Security, Pentagon, if it's not to make sure the nation is not destroyed either by conventional warfare, internet warfare, nuclear warfare, or biological warfare, right? If you cannot protect the nation against any of these factors, then you're incompetent. The whole purpose that we have NSA is to ensure that this doesn't happen. If you have to remember, everything is related in history. Nothing happens in a vacuum. It's a series of cause and effect. Do you remember Edward Snowden? What happened to Edward Snowden? You probably forgot about him. You're like, Edward who? He did not go to college. He went to high school and then he started working for the CIA and NSA in their internet program. And then he sold our secrets to the Chinese, to the Russians, and he went to Russia. Now, you can bet that all the information he has, and he cleared the highest security, I believe. All the information he has is given to the Russians. That was like, what, over 10 years ago. They've used that information to study the vulnerabilities of the United States. And at that point, the Russians were saying, and KGB is superior to CIA, it has always been. Russians always win the chess match. You know, I mean, you know that. They're just superior strategists. And so Russian intelligence, KGB or FSB, and Putin was the head of the KGB, right, during USSR era. So they're studying, how do we destroy the United States of America using the information that Edward Snowden gave them. And they're thinking at that time, there's no way we can beat them conventionally. There's no way we can beat them through nuclear warfare. First of all, it costs too much money. We don't have that much money. But we can defeat them biologically. So you see what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that NSA should have been able to anticipate this and game this scenario out. The exact scenario we're experiencing, NSA and Pentagon should have gamed this out, and they should have had an action plan in place in the event of a biological nuclear strike or genetic warfare, like an advanced virus. They should have known what to do, but they did not know what to do. And that's why our nation is going to be most likely destroyed. Because look at Russia. How many people are dying? That's because it's a biological weapon. There's 7 to 80% chance America is going to collapse. All the nations will collapse in the next, I would say by 3 years, we'll be third world nations. In 3 years. We're 2 months into this. So we're talking about 36 months. In 36 months, we'll be third world nations. The way like China was during our Cold War. Like we won't have any money. We won't have any food. We're at the mercy of the Chinese and the Russians, who will be dominant economic powers, like England and US. Now that's where we will be in 3 years. That's my prediction. Because Pentagon dropped the ball on this, NSA dropped the ball on this, CIA dropped the ball on this. This is why I'm willing to sacrifice 1,000 CIA lives in the next 1 year to steal the secrets that we need to steal from the Chinese. We need those secrets as the quickest way to neutralize the biological weapon. I'm sure CIA hasn't even thought about this. I'm sure NSA hasn't even talked about this. I'm sure President Trump hasn't talked about this, or the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, no one talked about this. See, this is what I'm saying. This nation is on schedule to collapse. Nobody's talking about things that they should be talking about. This is what I mean. One person can alter the destiny of a nation. I can save this nation. Right now, there's no one in Congress, no one in Senate, no one in the White House who can save this nation. President Trump is like, I'm going to open up this nation, even if we have no vaccine. What do you think is going to happen? 50 million to 100 million of Americans will die next 2 to 3 years without a vaccine. President Trump is desperate. I understand that. And he's trying to save the economy. I understand that too. But you have to go about this strategically. And you have to understand who your enemies are. If you don't know who your enemies are, you're not going to win. Simple as that. You have to know who your enemies are. Yeah. So I'm anticipating that Western civilization will completely collapse in the next 3 years. Don't you think America is collapsing? We have over, what, 20, 30% unemployment rate. It's already collapsing. I would say we're at a point of no return in terms of viability right now. I mean, even if we'll go back to full capacity next month, it's going to take us 2-3 years to catch up. And we may need longer than that. At least we have military defenses in place. But as soon as we have about 20, 30 million Americans dead from COVID, and U.S. military significantly weakened, I would say there will be a conventional invasion by Russians and Chinese. They're going to take territory. That's my theory. So that's going to happen in about 3 years, 2 to 3 years. The Russian army and Chinese army will invade NATO countries like England, France, Germany, and China will probably focus on America. Russia probably will focus on Europe. That's my theory. They already have this all gamed out. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. They have it all planned out. 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Yeah, that's my theory, and I think I'm correct. Because at the end of the day, you have to take territory to occupy it. And we know that Russia annexed parts of Ukraine for that same reason. War is never won without taking territory. So this is just phase 1. COVID killing Americans, economic collapse, it's phase 1. There will definitely be a phase when Russians come and occupy Europe, Germany, France, England, Spain, Italy. Russia will physically come and occupy it. And China will physically send its millions of soldiers, Red Army soldiers, to occupy all 50 states. That will happen. Once we have about 20 to 30 million dead from COVID, and once our military is debilitated because they die from COVID too. Watch, they're going to invade us. So that's why I'm willing to sacrifice 1,000 CIA agents, and each CIA agent is valuable. That's why I'm willing to sacrifice them right now, because in probably in a year and a half, it'll be too late. We're on a time schedule, right? The first month we had like 4,000 people dead in the beginning. Second month we had over 50,000 dead. Third month we're going to have like 100,000 dead. Yeah, we're on a schedule. So there are things that we must do. You can't just focus on COVID-19, and that's the problem right now. I would say with President Trump's White House, he's not doing enough to keep China intact. That's a problem. Because America is getting weaker and weaker, I would argue that it's not a bad idea to start skirmishes with China, like over East China Sea, start engaging in some kind of military conflict there, meaning like you start a mini war. Because once you start a war, mini war, it's easier to see what your enemy is doing, how they're operating. It's easier to spy on them. But in time of peace, it's hard to spy on them, right? If there's an actual military conflict in some area, then the nation shows its vulnerabilities and strengths. And then you come to see, and they're going to be communicating. So you can monitor the communication, because our communication technology is far superior to Chinese. Our satellite system is still far superior to Chinese. So these are advantages that we have that we can use. So let's say we start a war, or we compel China to start a war with Japan over disputed territories. So we use our proxy nations to start a war. We can use that opportunity to send our AWACS use our satellites to spy on China and the communications that go on in the time of war. And then also we could turn people more easily in the time of war because there's a lot of movement. And so that is one strategy. I'm not saying do that, but one strategy to check China and Russia is to start wars between satellite nations. You know, it may not be China and Japan, but like maybe Taiwan. You know, have Taiwan start something with China, or Japan start with China, or South Korea start something with North Korea. You know, you use proxy nations to start a military conflict. Yes, the lives of those nations will be lost, but that's the way to secure the safety of our nation. Because we have to discover what's going on in China, like not what they're telling us, but what is actually going on in China. And you can't do that in time of peace. I mean, you can, but it's harder to do. It's always easier to exploit other nations in time of war. Because one, they're going to get desperate and they're going to make mistakes. Right? In time of war, nations make mistakes. And you learn a lot from their mistakes. And you can see where their vulnerabilities are in war. Even if they don't make mistakes. But if they make mistakes, it's easier to know. And that's why conflict is a good thing in certain circumstances. You know, I'm the president of Georgetown Collaborative Diplomacy Initiative. So I've done some diplomacy research. You know, I was the Raoul Wallenberg Scholar for Human Rights and Democracy at Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And Hilary Coyne, adjunct professor of law at Georgetown, and Corey Bell, who's director of Russian studies at George Washington University, were there with me. And we're trained by Ehud Sprinzak, who is I believe he's like #1 espionage expert in Israel at that time. He's a political science professor in Israel at Hebrew University, and he was our mentor for 1 year. And I think he's the #1 espionage expert. So, or intelligence expert, Israeli intelligence expert. So, so one thing we can do is try to start a military conflict in one of the satellite states, Korea, Japan, or Taiwan, right? And then we can see what's going on. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is pump up direct conflict between America and China, like economic warfare. So not a military warfare, but some kind of proxy warfare. Economic warfare, cultural warfare, diplomatic warfare, some kind of a conflict. And then we can, through the conflict, see how they're thinking, what their rationale is, and what they're trying to protect. You learn a lot from your enemy trying to protect something, because that shows what their core values are. And why is that important? We could exploit that. If they're protecting, let's say, Fujian province in any kind of conflict, like we see military buildup in Fujian when there's a conflict, then we know there's something valuable there. And we can observe a military buildup through the satellite, because they're trying to defend something or protect something. You learn something. So what do? We exploit that. We attack Fujian. Right? So do you see? I mean, this is how you play chess, right? You take steps. You attack what they're trying to protect, because they're trying to protect something, either because there's a weakness there, and they recognize that weakness, so they feel the need to protect that particular area, because they have a neurosis about it, because they themselves think there's a weakness in that area. So that's a possibility. Or they're protecting something because they're trying to hide something. Like there's natural resources that's valuable, or there's a weapons lab, or maybe there's where the bunker is that's going to protect the president in the event of nuclear warfare, whatever. Either way, it's exploitable. And so starting a conflict is a good thing because it shows your enemy's weakness, right? In times of peace, it's hard to know what your enemy's weaknesses are, right? So this is why you need me in US Congress, because they're doing nothing. And at the current rate, America will become a third world nation by year 2023. And that's why Chinese have created this advanced weapon of mass destruction to make sure that we become a third world nation. And I think everything is happening according to plan the Chinese have developed, right? Because nobody's doing anything to protect our nation right now. All they're doing is trying to figure out a vaccine for COVID, and that's what the Chinese have anticipated. So I think we're utilizing our resources in the wrong way. Because if you want the United States to survive this conflict, COVID-19 is not the priority. It's a means to an end by our enemies. You gotta focus on what is most important. And that's not what's happening in the White House. That's not what's happening in the Senate. That's not what's happening in the US Congress. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's going on in the intelligence world, but from what I can see, that's not going on in Homeland Security, NSA, the Pentagon, CIA, FBI. None of that is happening. Yeah. And so it's a serious problem because we're on target to become a third world nation at this rate. And that's why you need to vote for me for US Congress, for Virginia State District, so I could go and fix this up. One person can change the destiny of a nation, that's me. So you better figure out a way to put me in Congress. I mean, I could always go back to Korea. I'm 100% Korean. There are 100 different races and nationalities in Arlington County. All of them can go back to their home country because they have family there, they have friends there. They'll be given citizenship as soon as they land. I go to Korea, I get citizenship the moment I land. So I'm 100% Korean. That's what, that's just the way it is, right? I'm sure it's like that with most nations. So, yeah. But the point is this, I'm an American citizen. I want America to survive this. And that's why I want to go to Congress and make sure that we find a way to survive. I don't think President Trump's plan will work because too many people are dying right now, 2,000 per day. In 10 days, that's 20,000. 100 days, that's 200,000, even if we just stay at the same rate. And I'm saying it's not going to stay at the same rate. It's going to exponentially grow once we open. And so, so that's why you need me in Congress, because right now no one is thinking accurately about what we as a nation need to do. So right now, I've explained the situation to you before. Governor Ralph Northam is trying to block me out of the ballot box. I'm officially registered with Federal Election Commission. I was registered as a Republican. I called them up. What do I do? I want to run as an independent. They said just switch it. So I switched it. So I'm running as an independent. But I've been officially registered with FEC since November 2019 as a candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. And I'm officially registered with U.S. House of Representatives, Office of the Clerk, as a candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. All I need is to be on the ballot box in Virginia, but Virginia laws, election law says I need to collect 1,000 signatures. So I wrote to Virginia Board of Elections the day that Governor Northam issued a stay-at home order, which was March 30th, 2020. And when he issued it from March 30th to June 10th. And I need to collect 1,000 signatures and hand it in by June 9th. And so it made it impossible for me to collect the signature because it's impossible in the sense that I cannot go door to door, knock on the door. It's illegal. I'll get arrested while stay-at-home order is in place. Even in phase 1, phase 2, open up, I cannot go and knock on the door and collect signatures. It's illegal. And so, yeah, because home, it's voluntary. Opening up is voluntary. Stay-at-home order is in place. And so, Virginia Board of Elections wrote back and said they don't have legal authority to give me a waiver. So I wrote a letter to Governor Northam, and you can read this letter on my Twitter page, saying that please give me a waiver because you're the governor. You have the authority as the governor of Virginia to do this. And he does. You see, he's the one who issued the executive order. And so I'm hoping that you will contact Governor Northam and make sure he gives me a waiver so I'll be on the ballot. The deadline is June 9th, so I still have time. We still have time, but obviously it's in your interest to get me on the ballot because I'm Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, and I'm probably the only one who can save this country from COVID-19. I don't think President Trump knows what he's doing right now. He's just acting out of desperation. And the Democratic Party doesn't seem to know what it's doing. Although I would have to say that maybe the Democratic Party is taking smarter steps now to survive because this is going to last probably years and years. I'm anticipating 30 to 50 million Americans to die from COVID in the next 3 years. Obviously, I don't want people to die, but I'm saying that because we don't have a vaccine, we don't have a cure, we don't have enough masks for everybody in America, that's what's going to happen, unfortunately. If I go to Congress, the very first thing I'll do is to make sure that we make 1 trillion masks per day so that people can protect themselves. They could even work if they have a protection and not get COVID, right? So the priority is to produce this stuff. And I don't see President Trump trying to produce N95 masks. I don't see the Democratic Party working hard to produce these masks. So there's a problem. And vaccine, all the experts are saying it's not going to be developed for 2 years. You could throw $1 trillion at it. It's not going to happen. I don't see this happening. And that's why President Trump doesn't see that either. That's why he's like, whether there's a vaccine or no vaccine, we're going to open up, right? Because he expects there not to be a vaccine. He's willing to sacrifice citizens to save the economy. And I understand what he's doing because if economy collapses, the nation collapses. So I see where it's coming from, but I think there's too much of a sacrifice. And I'm arguing that having millions of Americans die will contribute to the demise of our nation. So I don't think that's a smart way to go. I disagree with President Trump strongly on this, because I want Americans to live. And I want to find a way to save American lives and also protect ourselves against China and Russia. Also against their invasion, which is, I'm saying it's coming in a few years. Look at the death in Russia, it's 2,000. Now look at the death in United Kingdom, which has less cases, with 34,078 deaths, and it's only 2 months. United Kingdom will have millions of people die in the next 3 years. Spain, 230,183. 20 cases, 27,459. Italy, 223,885 cases. You had 31,610 deaths. France, 179,630 cases, 27,532 deaths. Look, their percentage is like 10 to 15% of the cases dying of COVID. And look at Russia, less than 1%. Yeah, so I believe I'm right in this. And that's why I have the French Eiffel Tower, because number one, it's a symbol of Western civilization or European civilization. When you say Europe, you think of Eiffel Tower, right? So I have this just to remind us that Europe is about to be destroyed completely, and Russia will occupy it in 2 to 3 years. Because look at the deaths. You think Russia's economy is affected at all by COVID? No. You know, all the European nations are going to be destroyed economically. Russia not, because they only have 2,000 deaths. China only has 4,000 deaths. These nations are not going to be destroyed by COVID. U.S. will be destroyed by COVID because we have so many deaths. And that's why I'm saying this is a preemptive biological strike meant to destroy our nation. China doesn't want to help us. China want to destroy us. So yeah. So I would say we need to be very careful. Yeah. But it is a celebration of graduation. So I hate to put all this damper on it, but so let's put some like first of all, let's say congratulations, class of 2020. So let's we gotta celebrate when we have to celebrate, right? Even despite the tragedy, we have to celebrate and times of celebration. So I have some photographs of graduates of School of Nursing and Health Studies, since we had the Tropaya today, although it's an undergraduate thing. So I have the photo up of Amanda Nemeshek, who was right in the center, right there, above a 2% rise. She was the president of a creative writing club where I, went every Friday. That's like once a week we went, and then we wrote and we shared our writing. And she is a pre-med major who graduated from Georgetown last year, and she took 1 year off, and then she said she was going to apply to med school. So I don't know what's going to happen with COVID, but she's there. So I congratulate her in person last year. And next to her is Haley Gould. She's from Florida. And I kind of came kind of close with her last year when she was here. And so I took a photo with her and her husband at the pinning ceremony. And then above that is Megan Le Savage. She's a wonderful person. Both Harley and Megan are amazing and wonderful people. Harley's working at MedStar Georgetown Hospital, so if I start working there in August, I'll probably see her. Yay, we'll be co-workers, Harley. And then Megan Le Savage is working in the NICU, Neo-Intensive Care Unit at Children's National Hospital now with 3 New York virus cases, modified or mutated COVID-19 strains that it's affecting and killing children. She'll probably get some. I coined the term New York virus to refer to the COVID-19 strain that's infecting and killing children because it started in New York. And I predicted it would spread to Virginia, and it came true. It's a virus. That's what viruses do. So we didn't have a single case here last week, but now we have 3 cases. Last week, New York had like over 50 cases. This week, they have over 100 cases. Now we have these cases in New Jersey. They have like 20 cases or more. Now we have 3. It's going to keep increasing. It's going to kill children in Virginia, children in Washington, D.C., children in Maryland. I hope Betsy's children don't die from this. I'm worried now because Betsy's daughter, she's so intelligent. She's fluent in Chinese. She's amazing. She came to, when I was having advanced health assessment class, so how to assess patients' physical condition. I had a time, when we were working together for our physical examination exam, and this was in fall of 2018. And so we were preparing for our final exam, and Betsy, she's one of our court members. Hi, Betsy. Betsy's great. She's wonderful. She's so smart. She has an MBA, worked for the federal government for a while, and yeah, so I'm happy that she's a part of our court. She makes our court so much better. And so she used to bring us ice cream, homemade ice cream, so good. Betsy's so nice. And she gives us ice cream, she's nice, and she gives us ice cream, homemade ice cream, which is so good. But anyway, she brought like her daughter came and said hello to us once, and I practice a lot with Ying Fu, who's Ying McMillan. That's her maiden name is Fu. She married her sweetheart from University of California, San Diego. So they're both undergraduates there, and they got married right after they graduated. Went to honeymoon in Hawaii, and then she and her husband drove here to to Arlington. So she lives in Arlington, and so she and I and actually a couple other people, we used to practice, like health assessment, and prepare for the exam together. And during the finals, like everybody was like a lot of people came and studied, and Betsy was there, and with her like mini group, and yeah, so we kind of worked in groups to prepare for these exams generally. But yeah, I mean, her husband's so great. I was preparing for the final exam, and her husband like let me like do a complete head to toe physical assessment on him. I'm grateful to Ying and her husband because without them, I probably would not have done well. I got an A minus in the class. And I mean, without them, I would not probably not done very well. So, I mean, they let me practice like on them. And final exam, basically, we have 30 minutes to do physical examination from head to toe, like every year, everywhere. And so, I practiced on Ying, obviously, and Ying practiced on me, and we had other small group members, and then we get a stranger that we got to do it on, and so Ying, Ying let me, do practices for physical assessment on her husband, and he let me do it. So I went over to their apartment and like I did it several times, over and over again, because I wanted to do well, and and they were so nice about it. So yeah, so Yin was nice. So we're like, we're like best friends in the program, and so yeah, yeah, so hey Yang, and yeah, and Nathan, hope you're doing well. So we have this vacation for 1 week, and then our semester starts back up in the next week. We have like great people in our program. So everybody's gonna go and do great things. Although, as I said, I expect like 5 people or more to die from COVID-19 in the next 2 years. It could be more, but at least 5 will die, I would say. I hope it's not going to be me. I hope I'm not going to be one of the 5, but I am overweight. So I could be one of them. So I got to be careful. Yeah, I guess, I have to pray. I believe in God. If God wants me to call me back home, what can I say, right? So, and I believe the homosexual is wrong. So God's not going to punish me for that. So, I feel fairly safe. Yeah. So as I said, I'm going to start working, hopefully at MedStar, Georgetown Hospital, treating COVID-19 patients starting in August, or if I, get hired here in Arlington at Virginia Hospital Center. So yeah, so I'm going to be thrown in there, and I'm going to be saving your lives. Those of you who are watching right now, I'm going to be treating you COVID and saving your life. So yeah, and yeah, so on the left, it's a photo of like I went to Juhan, Jesuit University's Humanities Action Network, and presented my paper on juvenile diabetes. So all the Jesuit universities come together to discuss humanitarian efforts. So we had like the Catholic Relief Service come, the leader of Catholic Social Justice program came, and a refugee service came, the leader, so we got together with all the Jesuit schools, and we shared our research, and we discussed how to help people, Jesuit University of Humanities Action Network. And so she also went there. So she's an amazing person. She got so many awards at the Tropaya ceremony today. Well, congratulations! wow, she's amazing. She's going to do so many amazing things in the future. So I feel like honored to gotten to know her. You know, because I could see her doing a lot of great things. So on that day, we went for lunch at a nearby restaurant just to get to know each other, and we ran into Jack the Bulldog, our college mascot. So we took a photo together. So she's graduating this class of 2020. Yay, we're graduating! So yeah. So and that's a Helio in the back. Yeah, it's our like signature building. And you see that also on the right side with the graduates there in the graduation ceremony. Yeah. So yeah, so it's exciting for us. It's time of graduation. So I wanted to just kind of honor nursing school and healthcare study students. Um, and so I just wanted to kind of honor them here. All of them are going to do amazing things. I mean, yeah, Megan's doing amazing thing now already. Harley as well. Yeah, so yeah, all of us are going to do amazing things. You guys are lucky. 25 of us from CNL program are going into the world and in August to help everyone, with COVID or other things that's health related. So you guys are lucky. Yeah, blessed. Yeah, so Tara Prabhu is um, she's she's I think going to go to New York and work there. So she's done amazing. She was in Tanzania researching something really really impressive. Yeah. So yeah, she's an amazing person too. I'm sure she's going to do amazing things. And there were others in Juhan. Like there were four of us who went. So I was the only graduate student. Three others were undergraduates. So uh, others were like Tahe Yoon and Julia Mirable. So they're amazing people too. And they're both graduating. So congratulations on your graduation. And both of them won a lot of awards at Tropaya. So congratulations, Julian, and congratulations, Tahe. You guys are both amazing people. Tara, you're amazing. All of you are amazing. I'm sure you're going to do amazing stuff in the future. So I'm excited about your future. And I thank God that we had this opportunity to go to Juhan, Jesuit University Women's Action Network, at the University of Scranton. It's every 2 years. And there was one last year, summer. I'm glad that I got to do that with you guys. Yeah. Yeah, it is party time, right? Going to Ibiza. Actually, that's not Ibiza. That's in Mallorca, Spain. And I went there when I was in Cambridge. I flew over from Cambridge. So it was like a spring break, like not really like spring break, like summer break, like right now. So I was gonna go somewhere fun, maybe like to Florida with my CNL cohort members to have fun at the beach. But with COVID, like all of us are at home. There's a stay-at-home order, So um, yeah, so so I flew out to Mallorca. I was gonna research because I'm like intense about research, and all my friends took off for vacation in other places or went home to United States. I had friends from all over the world, and they went home or whatever. And I was going to stay at Cambridge University and do research. And then I'm like, man, this is like summer vacation time. Maybe I should go and have fun. So I just took off by myself because there's like, from London to Mallorca, there was a plane ticket for $49 or 49 pounds, which was like $60 or something. And I'm like, geez, I guess I'll just go. So I flew out. And then I found a hotel for like $37 per night, like a single room hotel. And you add the meals, like you know, you could like have I think it's a free breakfast. Yeah. And so anyway, so I'm like, yeah, I'm there. I'm gonna go there and just have fun in the sun. So I just flew out by myself. And then I found out like I didn't know what Mallorca was, but I found out it's like a place where all the Germans call. And I think that's why the plane ticket was cheap. It's like I don't think English like like Germans. So I think they go to like English part. And English people like to go to like um, different part of maybe Spain, maybe Malaga, or like, Portugal. Because when I went to Portugal, the Algarves there, I noticed there were a lot of English people. And like, I gotta tell you a story about that too, but another time. But anyway, this time I went to Mallorca by myself, just because of the cheap tickets and cheap hotel. I'm like, I looked at all the sites where I could go, and I chose the cheapest one, plane ticket and like hotel combination. I'm like, I lucked out though because I love Germans. I love Germany and I love Germans. I received a scholarship from the German government um, to to take courses in German at University of Regensburg. So I have 3 courses that I took in German at University of Regensburg. So that's in my transcript in college. So I like Germany. German government gave money to learn German. I'm a member of the National Honor Society, German Honor Society. I was inducted when I was at University of Pennsylvania. So I love Germans. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like heaven on earth. I'm like with Germans. So so I went and had a lot of fun. I was in the beach, during the day, and then I was just dancing away at night. You know, um, all Germans are fun to be with. So yeah, I made some new friends, which is great. Let's see. I think all of them are they all Germans? No, they're not all Germans. I mean, I partied with Germans mostly, but there were non-Germans there too. And I'm not going to discriminate against non-Germans. So there are some non-Germans there, but the girl next to me on the photo, she's German. She's like 100% German. you know. And the girl below my video, I'm waving now. Hey, she is from Macedonia. Yeah. So she's nice. So I hooked up with her and just like spent some time with her. And it was fun. Oh my gosh, look at me, like I'm like fat, but I've always been fat. That's why I don't know why women like me, because I'm like my belly's always been like that. I mean, I've never had a six pack, and to be honest with you, I have no desire to have a six pack because I'm like, who wants to do all that work? Like lifting weights and like I have friends who have like six pack and they're like lifting weights. They're like in the gym 2-3 hours a day. I'm like, geez, that's like hell for me. I mean, that's my idea of hell. I've never been in a gym for I've never been in a gym. I mean, I did shot put and discus and I lifted weights in high school to do shot put and discus. Um, but even then I was like lifting weights for 20-30 minutes. I'm like, it's high school level, shot put and discus. I mean, it was varsity, but uh, and javelin. I love throwing the javelin. But anyway, so I'm like weightlifting for an hour or 2 hours, like in the gym. Oh my gosh, that's like hell. I mean, you could be talking to a pretty girl. Why would you want to be in a gym lifting weights, like metal object? I don't understand. So, yeah, I have no idea why people go to gym and lift weights for hours. It doesn't make sense to me. Because you could be talking to beautiful women. And that's just more fun. I'm not married yet, just to make sure you know. I have never been married. I'm bachelor. I'm single. I want to marry a good Christian woman, and start have at least 4 children. Um, so I'm praying God will send me a woman who will be a good Christian who loves me, and I love her, and then we can get married. And I don't discriminate. Anybody from 18 to 26 is fine. So because if you're an 18-year-old, you're a woman. I respect you as a woman. And I'm not going to look down at you as a kid. Some people are like, oh, she's 18 or 19. She's just a kid. I'm like, what? No, she's a woman. I mean, what age do you live in? This is not like 1800s. If she's 18, she's a woman. She can make her own decisions. She's a woman. You should respect her like a woman. So, yeah, so I respect women who are adults at 18. I respect their ability to make decisions. I believe that they're intelligent, rational, and they are in control of their life. I don't think they're like children. So, but there are people who just don't respect women, and they're like, oh yeah, 18-year-old are children. I'm like, what? So anyway, like, if I fall in love with a girl who's 18 or 19 and she loves me and she and I want to get married, we'll get married and we'll have children and start a family. I mean, sooner or later she's going to be 25, 35, 40, people get older. So it's not like, so I have no problem marrying somebody who's 18 or 20 or whatever. Obviously she has to love me. I don't want her to marry me just for my body. I don't know, maybe I don't know. I don't know. My body's like my belly's like sticking out there. I mean, geez, I don't know why women like me. I don't know. Maybe there's. I mean, it's not even like curvaceous. It's like straight and like bulging out, like a like pinch an inch, maybe more than an inch. But I don't know. Women seem to like me for some reason. I don't know. I mean, it's yeah. I still that's like one of the big mysteries in the world that I still don't understand why beautiful women like me. I just don't understand it. You know, it's just strange. But anyway, I can't complain, and I'm not going to complain because wherever I go in the world, beautiful women seem to like me, and I don't know why, but I don't care. Thank God, that I'm lovable. so, so oh, I appreciate all the love that they poured onto me. So like the Macedonian girl and I, we had a lot of fun. Yeah, like fun in the fun in the water, fun in the sand, fun everywhere. you know. And Yeah, but I met her. I think it was like the last day of her vacation, unfortunately, or like last 2 days of her vacation. So I only got to spend like her last segment of vacation with together. Yeah, so it's kind of sad. So she had to go, so I had to. I'm not had to, but I met other people and had fun with other people. It's like there's a lot of people like that, which is weird. So the girl that I'm with uh, on the photo next to the video, she like I met her like her last day or day before last day as well. So we spent a lot of fun time together, but she had to go back to Germany. So you know what can you do? Um, and then yeah, so you see Bratwurst, Thüringer. Oh, that's good stuff. Because a lot of Germans go there and party in the summer. They have like people speaking German. They have German food. Everything is German. Like you, basically, all you see are Germans. Um, yeah, I mean, I met the Macedonian at the beach, but yeah, like they have like German areas. It's 100% German. Oh man, it's like heaven on earth. I love Germans. And German food is great. The girl next to that is German as well. They're all Germans. Wait a minute. I think one of the girls is Greek. The three girls that I was kind of, after, the girl in the yellow tank top next to the video, she left. I got to hang out with those three girls came from Germany, but one is Greek. Like she's Greek German. Like she's Greek, but she immigrated to Germany for her parents. So it was fun hanging out with them and yeah, dancing the night away. I love dancing, so sometimes I dance like 5 hours, six. I start at 5 and then dance till like 3 or 4. Yeah. Um, and then they had to leave too. Like I have this curse of meeting women on the last day or like last 2 days. So I'm like, geez, I have to like befriend someone else again, you know. But that's okay. I like meeting new people, so it's okay. So after they left, I met up with her, the girl that's on the left under German Paradise, And she's really nice, but she smokes. Yeah, I mean that's not good for your health, but a lot of Europeans smoke, I noticed. But she's pretty. So and she's Christian, obviously. Like if you're German, I mean the whole country's Christian, you know. The German government actually collects taxes and gives the money to pay the pastors and pay for churches. Yeah, so it's like the whole country is like a Christian country. So if you're gonna meet a German, they're gonna be Christians. So every single one of them are Christians. So yeah, either Catholic or Protestant. So I had a great time with them, you know, and so we hung out together there, and yeah, and so yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then she had to leave as well. I was like there for like 10 days or 2 weeks. And it's like I'm like meeting new people, you know. It's because it's like a vacation tourist spot. People come to vacation, they go back. So I hung out, after she left with those girls there, and then they had to leave as well. And then I hung out with those two girls, and then I hung out with her. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I like it's like one or two blocks, which is like concentrated German area, and like same people come every night. But the people that I meet, they seem to all like leave, after like a couple days, back home. So yeah, I mean you gotta go to Morocco. It's a very small area, so you walk around, you see everybody again, and as you become friends with like different people that you see it, because there's like only like a couple blocks, where Germans hang out, and yeah, and the hotels are like concentrated there. But it's fun, and Mallorca said they're going to open up in June just for the Germans. Germans are great tourists. They're nice people, very polite, and they party like animals. But they're like really nice people, and that's why I love Germans. And they work hard and they party hard. It's like me. I'm like probably I'm like German. Like I'm Korean, but I'm kind of like German that way because I love to party. I'm very intense about having fun. Like I love, I dance for like 5, 6 hours. People can't keep up. Like these 18-year-olds can't keep up with me. But anyway, yeah. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. And so I was like, should I go to Germany this summer? I've been at Germany, Mallorca in August after the program ends. So tempting, since they're opening up in June. But anyway, I guess I should start saving people's lives from COVID right away. But I don't know. It's tempting to take a couple of weeks off and go over there. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's show, and you learned a lot from today's episode, I hope. And I'm happy that you're sharing in my joy, my graduation, and in my life. You get to, share in my life. So it's a privilege I'm happy to extend to you. So thanks for sharing in my life by watching this show. I hope that you'll come back tomorrow and see the show again. I will keep you updated in COVID-19 and try hard to help you survive, you and your children. So tune in tomorrow. I hope you'll be well and that your family will be well too. See you tomorrow. Bye.